Good afternoon, everyone. First of all, I think it's a bit unfair to have me speak after two brilliant academics. So please realign your expectations. I don't have a book. I don't have a PhD. I don't even have slides. But, I'm a journalist. I love talking. We love talking about ourselves. We love the sound of our own voice. And we always believe we have the best story. So I don't mind being in this position. So I want to start by saying that, I really love what I do. It's really a privilege to get to tell stories of other people. They trust us that if they open to me to tell their story, I'll tell it accurately. Experts trust me that, if they spend time, if, they share their insights with me, I will try to simplify them. I'll talk to like 3 people and, give a coherent narrative, and then people read us. So it's really a privilege, and I enjoy doing this. But having said that, on most days, it feels like a very useless profession. That, what is the point of doing what we do? Whatever fancy stuff we see in journalism movies, when they show, muckraking reporters, investigating stuff, putting out a story, and, governments fall or, whatever happens. In real newsrooms, like most of the times, we put out a story and nothing happens. So, it leads to existential questions about, what is the point of the work that we do? And all of it becomes, even more, it's even more problematic when readers don't trust us. Historically, journalism has always been rooted in community. We write for readers. We say that we give voice to the voiceless. We hold the powerful accountable. We are not aligned with the government or corporations, but for citizens and consumers. And when this trust starts breaking apart, the existential questions become even more important. And the fact is that it's not like all of us know what the state of the media is. So I have a list of it, So in India, at least, it's almost universally acknowledged that the legacy media is a terrible mess. Both journalists and consumers of news acknowledge all the problems. We do not cover stories adequately. There's stories that reporters write, but they're killed by editors in newsrooms. We write articles without context. We do interviews without tough questions. There are scoops that are planted by people who have special interests. We give sensationalistic headlines, all of it. I'm sure you will have an even longer list of the problems with the media. So in this context, distrust is totally justified. We need to be super skeptical. I am skeptical when I read work that is published in the press. My critical thinking skills, I'm always figuring out, okay, what happened there, what happened in this paragraph. So that sense of skepticism, which is a topic here, like distrust, is very important. But all of this can lead to, almost like nihilism, that, we can't trust anything, we do not know what's happening. So for my own work, what I've started thinking about lately is to understand and, place the present moment in the larger context. What is really happening? So this is what I'll tell you my current framing of the moment in which we are. So there are 3 things that I've identified. One is that we are living in a world that's exploding with information, right? There's so much to read, watch, like there's Netflix, so many podcasts, audiobooks. Anyone who wants to learn, there's just too much. Whenever I'm into it, I almost never feel it's enough. I can spend 2 hours reading, and then I feel that, okay, I haven't done enough. But we also know that more information is not really leading to more understanding. There is a difference. If I read 5 newspaper articles, is that making me a better citizen? Is that making me a better consumer? I don't think so. So these 2 things are delinked. Second, we are living in a world which is full of bullshit. All around us, someone or the other person is trying to sell you something. It could be a product. It could be a service. It could be an idea, an ideology. And the singular goal that unites all bullshitters is their goal to persuade or impress you. It's not to lead us towards the truth. See, right? And third, we are living in a culture that is overdosing on entertainment. Everything that we do, we want it to be fun. You want to teach like an 8-year-old kid, so make games. You want to understand politics, have a stand-up comedian, making a sketch out of it. It's not a problem. I love spending time on Instagram Reels. I'm an active consumer. And I love watching cinema, etc. All I'm saying is that the impulse for entertainment in every aspect of life, I think it's becoming toxically positive. And for critical issues, as much as civic entertainment is really important, we have gone a bit too far, which is why journalists today are asked to create like 90-second reels to talk about what the Prime Minister of India is doing. These things are a little bit complicated. So coming to the point, when you see this, this is an unprecedented moment in the time of knowledge and how the media has functioned over centuries. So first, it is important, at least it was important for me to acknowledge and understand that this is a different moment. The old model in the time when newspapers originated, where information sources were scarce, they had more authority. Now that world does not exist. The thing is that the new order has not emerged. It's chaos. And like ChatGPT just came up, and we are now again going back to the drawing board and thinking, okay, what does it mean for us? We haven't yet recovered from the impact of social media, the internet, and we already have a new thing for us to consider. Are we relevant? Like, what is our job? And once you take this long-term perspective that we are in a bit of chaotic situation and we don't really know where we are heading, I think it makes me more humble to just accept that this is the reality and to reach a new equilibrium where we redefine the social contract between a journalist and a citizen. It may take some time, maybe a few years, maybe a decade, but we'll get there. So the point, at this point, what I think we need to do more experiments to figure out what is that new equilibrium where, you know, a journalist and I say readers because I write, like the relationship between journalist and the reader needs to be reconfigured. What I am trying to do in a lot of my own work is to use the power of 3 magical words, which I say is, I don't know. You know, uncertainty is something that I have increasingly come to appreciate, that how much important it is for me to tell readers that it is really hard to get to the truth. Even, let's say I'm working on a big story. I'm trying to investigate a company. Even after I do everything, I do 20 interviews, I get data, I read documents, I follow digital trails. Even after all of that, when I have like a good solid 5,000 word piece, I'm still thinking in my head, do I know the full story? Is every loose end covered? Can I defend the story in court? So I'm always with those doubts, but yet I followed a very strict process to get to that story. It's a rigorous process because I was interested in that question, and whatever I found out, I tell it in my story. What we have been doing for long is that all the uncertainty that's in my head, I don't put it on paper because, you know, I want to say, I know this. I'm coming from a position of authority, that I know more than you, my reader. And I think that worked in like the old world. I don't think that works in the current age when there are so many information sources. So maybe it's better, rather than to say that, you know, I know a lot and I have some privileged knowledge, access to privileged knowledge that you don't have, to reframe it and say, you know, I'm going to tell you a story like I tell a story to my friend over a cup of coffee. That, you know, I was thinking about this, I did so-and-so, I followed so-and-so steps, and this is what I know, and this is what I don't know. And I'm figuring this out. And that relationship where I'm breaking I'm giving away some power, so to say, that I am not an expert. I don't know everything. I'm trying to get there. This reconfiguration is something I think I have increasingly feel is what we need more of in the way we tell our stories. And that requires, of course, readers always need to be skeptical. We as an industry did things to lose your trust. But as I was speaking to one of the speakers yesterday, this reconfiguration first requires me to trust you, to say that if I tell you a complex story, you will embrace it. That I trust you to allow me to make a few mistakes. And then I can come and say, hey, I'm sorry, I screwed up here, but I'll fix it. I'll get there. In the next story, I'll do better. This reconfiguration requires me to trust my readers that they do not always expect me to tell a complicated story about, say, politics in a 90-second reel. I don't know, like, whether this is the solution, but I think in this age when all of us as journalists are really grappling with a fundamental question of, like, what makes us different from other forms of communication, and when a lot of us believe that our first commitment as journalists is towards the truth, and when in a time when truth is, is open to, like, everyone is forming their own reality, having a solid foundation for shared truth is increasingly important. And that, to say, I don't know, is what I increasingly feel is perhaps the way forward. Whether that works or that doesn't work, I don't know. Thank you.
Samarth Bansal, thank you so much. So my first question to you would be, isn't it sometimes quite tiring and stressful to be super skeptical? And isn't it sometimes quite human to want to believe in something because it's easy and nice and...
Yeah, so skepticism, so I break it in two parts. One is skepticism to say, do I know the complete thing? And the second is, what does it mean for me? So, like, just to give you an example, let's say, like, I write a lot on food, on packaged food, right? So I'm always trying to understand what are the incentives of the packaged food industry, how the health industry works. And I may not know everything, and I'm also like, I don't like grand conspiracy theories that, oh, this industry is trying to screw you. But I'm saying, okay, that's done. Now, what does it mean for me in practice? As a consumer, what do I need to know to make a better decision today? As a citizen, what information I need to know, even if I don't know everything about politics or policy, how can I become a better voter? What can I have? So, to have a better discussion with my friends. So if you're dealing the two, where you're skeptical about knowledge in what we know, but also say, okay, given whatever I know, these are the principles on which I'm going to act. This is the position I'm going to take, and I will revise it. I think this distinction makes me quite sane.
Yeah, I believe in that too. Cool. So your questions now. Please, again, a little bit more light so we can see who once already maybe raised their hand. I think so far. And then I'll let you think more for a bit. How do you manage as an investigative journalist, although we understand that it's not a very attractive profession, how do you manage to keep a healthy level of mistrust while at the same time identifying trustworthy sources? Is there a certain, is it an intuition, is it an instinct, or is it mainly based on your expertise or on facts?
Yeah, so we had this question yesterday on the panel as well. It's really an ongoing process that you start understanding how sources tell you things. So you, over time, uncover, okay, what is their motivation? Why are they talking to me? So once you do multiple interviews, without, you get to that point. You build that intuition. You try to get them, okay, you have given me the anecdote, you have told me what happened. Can you show me an email? Can you show me a document? So you go that route. Then you try to think of, okay, who are the other people I can talk to? You find them out. Then you try to see, okay, are these two people friends? I'm just talking to the same group inside the company. So, or like, in any organization. So all of these markers, the more you do this work, the more you start figuring out how much to trust one source. And in all good newspapers, we never run or hardly run a one-source story. You always want corroboration. Editors always want, okay, anecdote is fine, but can you give me a document? And who is the source? Is the person a former CEO of the company or, a junior intern? So we have all of these markers, and these things are very extensively debated, discussed in good newsrooms. As a reporter, I always feel I know everything. My source is the one who has to be trusted. When my editor raises questions about the integrity of my source, I feel offended, but that is the job of my editor. And which is why, editors matter a lot, which is what makes us different. I'm not just going to tweet out, some person told me some things. So this is what I would say. There's no clear cut, a formula or a machine that you can throw in to say, this is a trustworthy source or not. And this process follows, and of course, like, you can see stories of journalistic blunders when we overtrust a source and they mislead us. But I think we get better of building an intuition about sources over time.
Last chance for your questions. I see, even in the dark, I see one hand and another one.
My name is Max, I'm from Austria. What do you think when Simon Hirsch just has one source and he don't tell who he is?
Sorry?
Simon Hirsch, like the American journalist. What do you think? He don't tell the source, he has just one, but he has this big reputation.
Yeah, so I can just tell you my view. See, revealing the source is always, it's not always possible. But I personally don't believe in one source stories. Like, I have material where one source has told me like fascinating things, and I want to tell to the world what I found out, but I don't, because like, my editor won't allow me to, you know, so I have a constraint, but still I don't believe in one source stories. I think that's a strict no. Maybe like, I remember having these conversations in newsrooms where the reporter, like senior reporters, are convincing the editor that you know who this person is. You know their word matters. They're not insignificant. So if this person is making this statement, we have a public responsibility, you know, to go out and tell the world, because we cannot find a second source. So there are discussions like these, and exceptions are made, but just a personal view, and I'm not very familiar with this particular reporter's work, so I can't comment on specifics, but I do not endorse single source stories.
Next question.
Yeah, hello, my name is Anke Siebold. I just wanted to ask the question, you made the point before when you said, oh, we all have our bad experiences with media, and you named some problems that were, and you said, oh, maybe we all know some more. And for me, I would wonder how you see this and how the situation is in India. But for me, a big problem with media, especially with newspapers, because I'm a newspaper reader, I mean, I like that, and I stick to the written word mostly. But in Germany, for instance, in most newspapers that I know, even in high-quality papers like Süddeutsche Zeitung or so, there's more and more that, you know, there is no more a clear division between facts and opinion, and it's more and more intertwined, and it's very difficult for me or for the reader to actually just be informed about what's going on. I mean, because it's always opinion and it's so how do you see that as a problem, generally speaking, in journalism?
And are you talking specifically in terms of the internet, or also the physical paper?
Physical paper.
Yeah, so see, this, like, traditionally this was the job of the op-ed page. You know, we had the editorial section and the news section. And I think what happens that in principle in the good newspapers, even as reporters, we are told this again and again, that you are not an opinion columnist. If you want to write an op-ed, go to the opinion section, stick to facts in the reports. But what I see is that sometimes this filter is weakened about what goes in the news pages. So even, let's say, there are 10 stories, and in 8 they are factual, and 2 say have more opinion, which I also see. You know, it may start being perceived that most, like, just hard facts news reporting is opinion. So, like, I don't know the solution to this, honestly. But I see what you're saying, and the job that we can do better is, you know, to make the filter stronger rather than making it weaker. One of the things, if you follow like the discussion that like publicly is happening, at least about the New York Times, for example, is this term called resistance journalism, where as journalists, if we start believing that our job is, let's say, you know, to fight authoritarianism or a lunatic president here or there, and not really towards the truth. You know, so what is our purpose? These two are different things. You know, are we a political project, or are we striving towards the truth? If we don't have clarity on our purpose and it goes towards, say, fighting authoritarianism, then we weaken our filter, our lens, our frameworks on, you know, what we feel is important, what information we select in a story, and opinion starts coming in. So these are the trends that I have also seen. It's disturbing. But the only thing I can say is that still, like, my editors still tell me that, like, write the facts in your story and keep the opinion to the opinion pages. Not sure that if that really resolves, but yeah, these are my observations.
That perfectly leads to my last question to you. What's your take on the trend, even to you? Are you optimistic or pessimistic about it? Probably also dividing between op-eds and facts and neutral reporting has something to do, is interlinked with education, with media literacy, with knowledge, even how to differentiate between them. Do you see that the general media literacy is increasing and people are more digital natives and having a look at social media and knowing where the sources are from and what the context is? Or would you say rather pessimistic that the trend is that we're too trustworthy, especially on the internet? Yeah,
so two things. So I think every time this media literacy question comes up, I always feel that I'm blaming the reader. Oh, you don't know whom to trust. Okay, I am doing my job properly. It's you. Okay, if you read Samarth Bansal, you'll be fine. But you're reading that person, so it's your mistake. I do think we need more critical thinking skills that will help in our education systems. At least in India, that's one of the big debates in our school education, that it's so much rote learning focused and not helping students develop critical thinking skills, so it will help. But I personally don't see any decline, so to say that, oh, 20 years ago, people were smarter, and today, people have become dumb. I see that often, this thing, oh, readers are stupid. I have heard journalist friends saying that, so what we can do? We'll do whatever we do. So I think I don't want to make any generic comments on if there has been a declining trend. It's as a society in general, the more critical thinking skills we have, trust in science, journalism, or any political institution, it will become better. But the second point I want to say is that, on a rather optimistic note, which is that, see, I gave the whole talk about the problems with press, but as one of the top editors in India once said that, see, good journalism is not dying. It's becoming, it's increasing. You're seeing more and more good stories. It's just that bad journalism is making a lot more noise. Right? There's a difference because information is exploding. And I also see that, as much as I said that, when I said it feels useless sometimes to do what we do, people still write me emails, They will write me a message on Instagram that they're reading, that, they could change one small thing in their daily life after reading one story. So to say that, no one trusts anything, or, no one is doing good journalism, that's also not true. So these trends, when I see that, it makes me optimistic that we'll get somewhere. Yeah.
It definitely did something today, and it was useful. Thank you so much, Samarth Bansal.